Hi guys, I'm Gasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to our coffee times to discuss horror movies. So today I am here to talk to you about a new horror film that has been released called She Will.
It's coffee time.
So when I saw the poster for this and I saw who the main actress was, I was like, yes please, that is Alice Creek and I need to watch that film because I really like her. And it's also a new horror release, so I knew that I had to watch it. And I'm here to talk to you about it. Is this really horror though? It's also something that we're gonna discuss here. And as always, the review is going to be spoiler free, so get your cup of coffee, sit down, and let's start. This is a British psychological horror comedy drama film, so there's a lot there to unpack, and it is the debut film by Charlotte Colbert. And when you start the movie, the first name that comes on screen is Dario Argento, so I was like, wait, what? Because I knew he was not the director, so I checked and he's one of the executive producers, and I could see why he would have found this film appealing in order to participate in it. We could say that maybe this is more than a horror, a supernatural thriller, but the theme of the movie is basically retribution. You know, it's a feminist take on revenge. And yeah, I would say maybe it's not 100% horror in the way that it is not a scary movie or is not looking to scare you, but it's more, I would say, a very supernatural thriller. An aging film star retreats to the Scottish countryside with her nurse to recover from surgery. While there, mysterious forces of revenge emerge from the land where witches were burned. So we follow Veronica. She is an actress that became popular when she did a film when she was 13, and it was controversial at the time. So now Veronica is an aging woman, and she has had a double mastectomy, so she has had her both breasts removed, and she's really struggling with that and decides that she just wants to move away from society. So she goes to the Scottish countryside and she's going to stay in a cottage where she assumes she's going to be the only guest, but when she gets there, it's full of eccentric, weird people, which makes her feel really uncomfortable and watched, and it's not exactly what she wanted, but she has to stay. With her is also her nurse, who is another really interesting character here, that is gonna help her, you know, change the bandages and things like that. So these are our two main female characters. So when Veronica gets to this place and she decides to stay, she also learns that those lands where a lot of witches were burned, and so there is a lot of legends about the earth there and how it has this special powers because of all of the ashes from the witches that were burned there. And that is something that is going to connect Veronica with something supernatural. Unfortunately, we never really get a full-on explanation on why Veronica is so traumatized by the movie she did when she was 13 and her relationship with the director of that film. We don't really get to explore that in detail, which, you know, I would have loved to see, because I feel like it would have helped me a lot more to connect with Veronica as a main character, because I did feel a little bit detached from her. She's going through a lot, and you're going to see her struggling with physical and also psychological wounds and things that she needs to process from her past. And she's also trying to come to terms to her ruined beauty, because she is now old, which, you know, in Hollywood it kind of means that you're not gonna get roles anymore, or not many, and that is also reflected on the fact that she has her body mutilated after, you know, getting her both breasts removed. So it is all of that internal struggle of getting old and how things change when you are a certain age. So part of that sadness and that paranoia that our main character has is all related to her own aging process, which I think is really interesting because it's something probably a little bit of a parallel with the actress that plays the character, and how she probably must have felt or feels about it. And I feel like our main character does such a good job at reclaiming her power, reclaiming her strength throughout the film. And even though the plot got a little bit messy at times, I feel like her performance was just so stunning that it saved a lot for this film. It did a lot of good to this movie. Desi, who is the nurse that is with her, has a really interesting relationship with Veronica, in which at the beginning they don't really trust each other, and that is going to change through time. I feel like my favorite thing about this movie was the relationship between the two female characters and how there were even parallels in their own lives, which basically comes to portray, you know, female supporting another female, and how things that have happened in the past to Veronica are still gonna happen maybe in the present, but then if we help each other and we come forward with things that happened, then we can be also a support system for the newer generations. This movie, it is mostly based on atmosphere and a lot of creepy images more than any kind of scares or shocks or jump scares, anything like that. It is not a horror movie in that sense. So that's why I feel like I would call this more a supernatural thriller than a full-on horror movie, to be honest. I really did enjoy the cinematography and the colors that they chose for a lot of the scenes. I feel like they helped a lot when it comes to create this beautiful atmosphere, especially when we are in the areas of the woods that I thought were fantastically shot. I feel like there are many good shots in the film, but I feel like there were way too many, you know, these typical montages of like creepy images and disturbing things, and there were so many that at some point it stops to be effective at all. So I feel like they overuse that, and I feel like they also relate a lot on those images to tell the story and keep the plot moving forward, even though we had enough with the portrayal, especially from Veronica. And I feel like her body language and her actions could have shown us a lot more, and we could have benefited from having less of those creepy images, because I feel like they were pushing them and pushing them in order to keep the story and the plot moving forward, even though I feel like it was not needed to have so many. I do like that because we have that earth in this place where a lot of witches were burned, and the earth is supposed to have healing powers and specific powers and stuff. I feel like they had a lot to play with when it comes to creepy imagery and stuff like that, and there were, like I said, many great shots. I just feel like it was a little bit overused. It's just for my taste. The photography was really like sinister and damp, but the problem is there was a slight overuse of drone shots that drift eerily over the darkened landscapes. You know, something that it's becoming a cliche element of elevated horror. When it comes to the horror of this movie, as I've said before, it's not per se a horror movie, so don't expect to see like a lot of blood and guts in this film, because that's not what you're gonna get. Instead, you're gonna get many creepy and disturbing imagery, also a lot of montages of that, and you're also gonna see many great shots in the woods and kind of through the flashbacks of things that have happened in the past. There are some horror elements in there, but like I said, it's not really a scary movie. I don't think that was even the intention at all. This is a movie about empowerment, about witchcraft, about revenge, about, you know, finding back your power, things like that. So that's where the core of the film is. I did like a little detail. They put a song from The Silence of the Lambs, the Goodbye Horses song, at a bar in a moment, and I already knew that that song meant that a guy was going to be an ass. I knew a guy was going to be horrible. I don't know why I had that feeling, and then it happened and I was like, you see? So it's kind of like there are many really good moments in the movie, and they did pay attention to certain details like that, and I do feel like this movie could even potentially be something similar to an A24 film. But again, the horror was basically all through all of these disturbing images and creepy images over and over again, so at some point it lost a little bit the shock value. I feel like our two main characters, if they would have been left alone a little bit more without so much support of so many images and flashbacks and things like that, it would have been a more powerful movie for me and it would have worked better, but that is just my opinion. I feel like with all of those, you know, montages and flashbacks, they were spoon feeding us so much information that at some point I could not enjoy them as much, and I feel like I would have loved to see more interaction from our main characters. There's also not too much dialogue. There's a lot of scenes with little dialogue or no dialogue at all, so maybe a little bit more interaction between our main characters, which, you know, was something that I was the most interested in, would probably been better for me. Alright, final thoughts here. So I decided to give this movie a 3 out of 5. I would still recommend you guys to check it out, to be honest, and I think it does work really well if you take this as a revenge movie with a little bit of a supernatural aspect to it. This is a story about a person's journey of finding back their power, a person's journey about renewal and revenge. These days, you know, we use the term witch hunting when somebody is trying to cancel someone else, and I feel like this movie is trying to reclaim back that word, you know, witches and witch huntings, and turning it into something feminist and positive again. But that might be me stretching it a little bit much. This is indeed kind of like one of those feminist #MeToo movement movies, so if that's something that you really don't want to see, then be warned, this is what you're getting. So you're going to see a lot of misogyny in this film, that's basically what I'm saying. So be warned. And something that I would tell you as well is this movie, it's also kind of a slow burner, so it does start fairly slow. I feel like you should watch this movie for the performances, and like I said, the relationship between our two main female characters was my favorite thing. I felt like when it comes to the story, it does get a little bit messy and it falls flat a little bit as well. I feel like when it comes to, if you will, psychological horror or stuff like that, this movie doesn't really stand out. So that's why I feel like instead of calling it a horror, let's call it a supernatural thriller. But anyways, you know, I do feel like it's worth one watch, unless the themes that I've talked about are something that you really are no interested in, because then just skip it, you know. But let me know, guys, if you have watched it and what you thought of it. That's always the best part, when people tell me their thoughts, because we can have like such complete opinions about things. So let's talk about it in the comments, and thank you guys as always so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in our next coffee time. Bye.